A longtime supporter of Iowa agriculture is being honored after his passing. Bill Northey is a former Iowa Secretary of Agriculture, and he received the American Farm Bureau Federation's 2026 Distinguished Service to Agriculture Award. That was during their annual conference this past week. Well, Iowa Farm Bureau President Brent joined me from the airport on his way home from the convention. He shares why the group nominated Northey for the award.
Well, thanks for joining us, Brent. I know it's been a busy week. As I mentioned before, Brent Northey was the Iowa Secretary of Agriculture. But for those that might not know, what else did he do and who was he?
Yeah, well, Bill, just being a person, I mean, he was phenomenal. He's one of those guys that really inspired leadership, drove people to do better without even trying, and for me personally, I knew Bill for many years, and he was one of those guys that encouraged me to get involved, to do some things, and you know, he carried such a unique characteristic about him that if there was 100 people in the room and you were having a conversation with Bill, you were still just having a conversation with Bill. It didn't matter all the noise, all those circumstances. I mean, he was absolutely a one-on-one person. Carried Iowa farmers and their voices, the things that they wanted to do. He carried all those priorities appropriately, and honestly, he was pretty visionary in some of his leadership skills too, with the nutrient reduction strategy and many other roles that he played throughout Secretary of Agriculture. But at the base of it, he was a husband, a father, and just a downright decent human being.
Yeah, so you mentioned it there too. He held a lot of important roles, from work with the National Corn Growers Association to being undersecretary with the USDA.
Right.
Why did overall the Iowa Farm Bureau decide to nominate him for this award?
Yeah. Well, it was a year ago that at our Iowa annual meeting, we honored him with Iowa's Distinguished Service to Agriculture Award. It was the most that we could do on the national scene inside our organization. It's our top honor. And so we didn't feel like it was enough, though. I mean, Phil did play some very important national roles as well, and he impacted agriculture well beyond our state's borders. And so our board of directors earlier this year decided to send his application forward to the American Farm Bureau for their highest award. And sometimes American Farm Bureau gives one or two awards. This year, they decided that the only award worth giving this year was to Bill Northey, and it was a fantastic event. There was several thousand people in the audience, and for me to escort his wife Cindy and his daughter Jessica on stage, it was truly an honor.
Wow. And what was the response? Were people excited and happy to see him honored?
Oh, yeah, it was phenomenal. I mean, they had a nice video tribute and all those things forward, but very rarely do people get standing ovations. And in the entire convention this year, there's 3 days of general sessions, and I think Bill was the one of only two standing ovations. And so to get that posthumously through a video with Cindy and Jessica on stage, I mean, it really speaks. It's a one heck of a tribute for that man and the things that he did for agriculture.
I know you mentioned that you had the chance to work with him some. He passed away in 2024. Do you have a
Yep.
favorite project or memory while working with him?
Oh, the one that stands out the most, I guess, is probably the last conversation that I had with Bill, and maybe it's just because it was the most recent, but we just randomly um, crossed our paths, and it was actually the day before he passed away, and we spent 20 minutes just thinking about the next project that my organization and the organization that he was working with at the time. How could we collaborate and move some of our initiatives forward, and so just it was just that constant presence, and had those conversations with him time and time and time again.
but he was ready for another one up until the day before he passed away.
Well, I never had the chance, unfortunately, to meet him in person, but while I was still an intern, he did send me the kindest message of encouragement. And it just spoke volumes to
Really.
me about him as a person. And it seems like he was a really big supporter of youth in agriculture. Is that right?
Oh, oh, for sure. I mean, he was always talking to, high school kids, FFA students. I mean, young college kids. I mean, he fully understood that the industry is going to continue, and we need to continue to bring those positive voices forward. And I mean, he did it with you. Even through a note. It's just who he was, and it was no effort, honestly, by Bill. He wasn't doing that for a reason other than encouraging you and the thousands of other people that he did that.
Exactly. Well, what an amazing tribute that sounds like you guys
Yep,
had at the conference this week.
yep, yep. It was hard to hold it together on stage, to be honest with you.
Oh, I'm sure. I'm sure.
Yep.
Thanks for your thoughts on this, Brent. We really appreciate you taking time to talk after a busy week.